Hey everybody, welcome to our Dive into Creatio series. Today will be session 1 of building processes. We'll have 2 sessions at least, and I'm sure there's lots of things down the road we can cover. Hopefully you guys find it interesting, and we'll get going. All right, so today we're going to cover processes and the beginnings of how to start developing your own processes and how they work and how they can be started and things like that. So we'll dig into the process library, which is where everything is found in Creatio. We'll do a brief overview of the pieces of a process, and then we'll dig into an example found on the Creatio Academy site, where we'll be notifying an employee when they have been added as an activity participant. And we'll kind of walk through building that to kind of give you an example. And as usual, here's some useful links what we'll be covering today on the Creatio Academy site. And then our next session will be next February 7th, continuing all about building processes. And then for March on, we are open for suggestions. Otherwise, I'll have to come up with stuff that hopefully you guys find interesting. But if there's anything you want to see or have questions about, please email us, offer those suggestions, and we'll make it happen. All right, so I'm going to switch over to Creatio, and we'll start walking through our process. Okay, so all righty. So we're in Creatio, and we are in the studio workspace over here on the left. You can see that we have other workspaces available. Quick reminder, you can make your own and set security for those and set up what sections are available, but we'll be living in the studio today. As you can see, it's got its home page, but we're going to be living mainly in the process library. So I will jump to that. In the process library, you get a listing of all the processes that are available. We can easily filter those out, whether they are active or not. Active means it's being used and will run or can be run. And if you uncheck that, you can see active and inactive processes. So we'll leave that checked for active. All right. Over here on the left, Creatio has conveniently made a kind of a built-in folder hierarchy to list out the processes in 2 ways. One, based on how they are run. So if they are started from an object signal, which we'll cover, meaning generally speaking, like something's happening in the system, a record is being added, modified, deleted. So those are the kind of the 3 ways that happens. So think of that as like an automated process that will run if something happens. Thus the term signal. You can optionally or additionally run a process on a timer, also known as, I guess, a schedule. And that can run, various times, every day, multiple times a day, once a week, once a month, once a year, whatever. So it groups things that way. And the last one is your good old all folder. And then you can make folders in there, either dynamic or static, and use this to group your processes, so you can easily, come in here to leads and say, hey, these are all the processes that have to do with lead management. So just ways to group your processes and make it easier to find them. Alrighty, so let's dig into one. And we'll go ahead and start a no, I won't make a new one. So let's dig into one started by a signal, and we'll keep it fun and work with the lead. And let's just say we're going to look at this one here, create an opportunity from a lead, and we'll just go ahead and open it. As you can see, you can also copy it, deactivate it, manually run it if it makes sense to manually run it. But we're going to go ahead and open it. By the way, if you're messing with a process that comes out of the box, I recommend copying it, deactivating the original one, and using the one that you want to use. However, Creatio does keep a history of all the changes that have been made in your processes, basically a version history. So you could potentially go back a version if you need to. Might cover that in a later session. Okay, so this is a pretty big process. As you can see, I can drag and drop things, but generally speaking, you just kind of follow the arrows. So as you can see, this process for our green start circle, which is always right here, which is how the process is going to start. This one is starting on a signal. So if I click my green circle, over here on the right, you're going to get the properties for that object of the process. And as you can see, this one's starting from an object signal. You could do a custom one, but object one is basically if anything is modified in the system. So then we're telling it what object to look at, and we're looking at a lead. That can be objects out of the box or custom objects, pretty much everything. And then we're saying, or the properties are asking, all right, what is going to trigger this? So is it going to be when a record's added, modified, deleted? In this case, it has been when a record is modified. You can have multiple start signals. So it could be manual, one could be when an object is modified, one could be when an object is added, maybe deleted. So a single process can start multiple ways, and you can account for that in the process itself. Okay, so we're gonna listen for any changes to a lead when the record's modified, and then you can further limit it to say, hey, do I want to know, when any field changes, which might be crazy, or just any specific fields. So we're just looking at the lead stage, and then we're further filtering this start criteria to say, hey, I only want to know when the lead stage is equal to qualified, and the sale type is opportunity or it's empty. So that's kind of how that is read. So if the criteria is met, we start running the process. And again, this is a brief overview, so we can talk right in or start doing our example. But all of these things are available. So we have user actions, which includes basically, hey, you have this task to perform now. A user dialog will pop up a question box where someone has to click and answer. It can open an edit page, meaning it could open a custom page that you want to ask. An auto-generated page, which is also a custom page, it has a lot of flexibility. A pre-configured page, which is also a pretty cool custom page. It can send an email or ask for an approval. And next we have, if we hover over this, system actions. So we can read, add, modify, delete data. We can update a formula or parameter. We can change access rights. So if if the owner changes on an account, maybe you want to roll through and change all the security rights on all the activities or contacts underneath that to give access to that new owner. Process a file is a cool way to like generate like a report, Word template report. You can call web services for those developer-like people. You can use the machine learning tools. You can write some VB.NET script. You can hook this to a record, make a task, find and merge duplicates, which is a new one, which is pretty neat. Call another process, which is great. So these two blue areas are basically where we live a lot to tell the system what to do. The others are throwing a signal or waiting for a signal, meaning like something changes. This is an end, and as you can see, you can have multiple ends, just depending upon how the process needs to roll. And here we have gateways. So you can do an OR gateway, which is kind of like a do this or this or this. You could do a parallel gateway, meaning like do this and this. So different things. All right. So good example of what this has done. Basically, if you want to nutshell this process, it says, hey, is my lead in this right stage? And then we have some conditional parameters here to say, hey, does the system setting of run opportunity process equal true? If so, keep going. If not, stop the whole process and don't worry about it. And then it just starts asking more questions. Was this lead qualified as account? Yes. Okay. Go down the account road. No. Okay. Go down the contact road. All right. Make a new opportunity. Was it a contact? Yes. Add the contact to opportunity. Read it. Update some lead data. Copy any products from the lead to the opportunity. Assign it. Modify it. So it's fun stuff. Lot of power in here. Do not be overwhelmed. They can be simple or complicated. It just depends on what we need to accomplish. All right, so in our next 15 minutes, we will quickly run through this example. All right, on the Academy, and this is linked in the PowerPoint, there are, under the BPM tools area, so documentation, user, BPM tools, there's a process examples, which has some really good examples. We're going to be following the one new activity notification. Thought it might be helpful to see it made, as well as being able to see what the steps are. All right, so the whole example here is when a employee is added to the list of participants in an activity, send them an email to let them know. So that's the overall process. So if I look, let me quickly leave Studio and look at an activity. Let's just check a listing here. So let's find one that's not started. This one's good. All right. So what we're saying is on an activity, on the participants tab, if I were to add someone, like if I were to add me as a participant, then the process would trigger and send me an email. So that's the whole process. This is just a way to say like, hey, I need you here working on this activity with me. All right, so that's what we are doing. I jump back to the Studio, into my process library, and I'm going to make a new process. And again, we are following this example, and it basically lays it out for you. It says, hey, I have a start signal, number 1 right here. And then I read that record. I read the title of the activity, and then I send an email to that person. So there are wonderful steps here, and it has great screenshots for you. And we're going to follow those briefly just to show you kind of how that's done. So, all right, place a signal of the initial events group. And we're going to call it participant added, and it will be activated when a contact is added on the participant's detail. Okay, so that is right here, figure 2, if we look at that. So again, it walks through the other steps as well, but we're living on number 1. Okay. So let's fire this off. So we will call this sample participant added to activity. And I'll change this. Okay. So by default, when you make a new process, recommend giving a name. It looks like this. It's got a start and an end. So we're going to click on our start object and hit our gear to say, I want to change the type to be a signal. All right. So I don't want to do that. Activated when a contact is added on the participant's detail of the activity. Okay, so we're doing an object signal, an object. So we're going to look for participant. Okay, when should it trigger? When it is added. And so we are basically done. We do not need to add any other filter criteria, but we could, because maybe you don't want it to go out to a customer. Maybe you just want to check and make sure that that is an employee. So we could change that to say, hey, I want that one. Participant would be of a certain type, but we'd have to dig into that. Okay, so we've got a participant. We do not need a condition. It says the element we activated when contact is added on the participant's detail of the activity. Okay, we have that. Next step, number 2, set up the signal parameters. On the object field, set activity participant. Okay, so I need to change mine to not just participant, but activity participant. There we go. When record added. Okay. Awesome. Okay, do we need to do anything else? In the object field, set activity participant. We did that. In the what event should happen, select add record. Okay, we are good. So we have done step number 1. We will name it participant added. And that was just done by typing up here. You could also like double click it and edit the name that way as well. So next step, add 2 read data elements of the system actions group. All right, so that is, let me kind of drag this over. System actions, we're gonna add 2 read data. So we have a read data 1, we'll drag that there. We're not gonna name it yet. We will have read data 2, we'll drag that there. We're not gonna name it yet. Alrighty. Set up the read activity participant element, which is number 2 here, to read data from the activity participant. Added. Okay, so let's click on this. Which read data mode to use? Read the first selection. See, read the first record in the selection. In the which object, read activity participant. So we will do activity participant again. I recommend just typing in what you're looking for versus hitting the drop down box. It'll find it faster. Okay, we are looking for activity participant. Now, let's see, we are right here in 4C in the how to filter records. set ID equals participant added dot record ID. And it looks like that's all we're doing. Okay, so how to filter, we're going to add a condition. We're going to say where the ID, and again, I can just type it in. And we're looking for the unique identifier of the record, and we're saying compare with parameter. I believe that is correct. To do this, click Add Condition, select the ID column, select Compare with Parameter. In the opened window, select the record ID parameter of the participant added element. Okay, so we're back here. We add ID. We're going to hit, we click on our question mark, and they ask us what we're going to do. We will say Compare with Parameter, and it will say on the participant added element, which is right here under process elements, select the unique identifier of record. So we'll just double click that, and it looks exactly the same. Participant added dot unique identifier of record, and that is it. So we are just reading data, and this is how we're filtering it. We only want to get the record of whatever has triggered this process, and we don't care about sorting, and we're going to read data from all the columns. You can further just read data from a selected columns if it was a big entity and you just wanted to make the process run a little faster, but we will do that for now. And we'll give this a good name. And this one is called read activity participant. So we'll shorthand it. Participant, because that's a crazy word to type a lot. Okay, so now we have a name. All right, we move on. So we have passed this. We're on step 5. Set up the read activity title to read the activity title to which a participant has been added. Okay, that's object 3 or element 3. So we'll give this a name, read activity title. All righty. Following our directions, we're on 5. So it gives us a beautiful screenshot. We're reading the first record of an activity where the ID is equal to the read activity participant element dot activity. Okay, let us do that. So we're reading an activity. Again, I just recommend starting to type. We're going to filter and say where the ID of this activity is equal to a parameter, and we're going to say read participant, and it filters things out based on the field type, and we're looking at the activity. So read participant dot first on resulting collection dot activity, same as this, just with a slightly different name. And now we move on. We are not sorting, but we are only reading data from the subject. That's just showing you. It defaults by subject anyways to sort it. We can leave it as saying we're reading all the data, or we can just read selected data, which is this option here. So we'll add columns. We wanted subject for sure, because that's the name of the title field. But if you wanted to read everything, you certainly could. So maybe you wanted to include other information in your email, like the start date, the type of activity. Let's see. What else? Maybe the notes. Maybe when it's due. So I normally like to click ID as well in case I need to use that. All right. So I went ahead and slightly modified it and added additional fields, because when you do your email, you can include these fields in the email. So whatever you're reading, you can include. If you just did subject, I could only include subject. I probably don't even need type because that'll show me the ID of that. But let's say we want to include the start date as well. So that's why we're reading that. I'll get rid of the others. So we're just doing start and subject. All righty. So we're moving down the line. We are on step number 6, add the send email element and set up the following parameters. In the from, use, select one of the configured email accounts. So in this one, to send an email, you need at least one configured email account. It can be your own, a system email account, whatever. But we will come down to user action, send email, drag it onto my line. I don't know if you can see those little blue dotted bars, but that's going to add it right in there. So our arrows are connected, and we will just say send email for the title. From, we're going to say lookup value, and let's just say we're going to send it from MWA demo. To, all right, who are we going to send it to? In the to field, specify the email of the recipient. So that is read contact data, read activity participant, and the first item and the email. Okay, so that is going to be to. We're going to hit our lightning bolt and say, I'm selecting a contact, a process parameter, and participant added, read participant, and the participant actually that we're looking for. Click the press element, select read contact data, and then the email parameter. Okay, fine, we'll do that again. Contact to email address or contact. We're sending it to the person. That is wonky. Let me read that again. Specify the email recipient. In the parameter value, click the process element. Select read. Don't have a read contact, so let's go with read participant. And then the email. We haven't read the contact. Let's try it anyway. Contact, process parameter, read participant, and we'll just select the participant. What is the message? We can do a template message or a custom message. Let's see what we're doing. We are doing a template. Let's see if that is there. Let's look for activity. Maybe that does not exist. Activity participant added. That is not in there. What do we have? We do not have that, so we will change it to a custom message, and we'll enter a subject. And let's just say, we will say, you have been added to an activity. Alrighty, now we can edit the body of the email. And we'll grab a block over here. We will grab text. And we will say, you have been added as a activity. Alrighty, and we will use our lightning bolt again to insert a process parameter. Title, subject, cool. It starts on, and we can do the same thing. Hit our activity title and say start date. Good luck. All right. So now we have a delightful email. How's it sent? Automatically. And we have processed that. So we have saved our email. That's going to save that process. Depending upon the size of your process and everything, might take a minute, but we have it. You can always edit a process. You can write from here, copy it. You can import from another process, but that has been done. So if we go back to our sales area and our activities, Let me pick one that is not started. And let's say we got him, and we add somebody, like, let's do me. I've been added, and I close. And let's just jump back to the process, open the process log. And we will see if we ran. Hey, look at that. It is running. And let's just kind of do a refresh there. Cool. So that completed, and we are good to go. All right. So thank you. That was day one of process management. As you can see in our studio process library, if I go back down to all, there are lots and lots and lots of processes out there. Emailing quotes, copying orders and products, lead management, opportunity management, some system ones to clean data. So lots of different things can be done in here. We just did one example from our documentation, process examples. So there are many, many, many more available. Pretty much as creative as you want to get, you can probably build a process for it. We'll continue on next month. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.